Good evening and welcome to the NJCAAE Army National Guard webinar series with a focus on esports tonight. I am so glad you're here. My name is Bubba Gaddert. I am the Executive Director for the Varsity Esports Foundation and your host tonight for this first in the series of webinars with the NJCAAE and the Army National Guard. Before we get started, we're going to show you a quick video before we get started and anybody jumps into the video, you guys can hold off for a little bit if you don't mind. We're going to show a quick video from the Army National Guard.
It's hard to believe, but 2020 is nearly in the rearview mirror. It's been an incredible stretch for us, and I know we've asked a lot of our force this year.
While circumstances will continue to evolve, here are the facts as they stand. All 54 states, territories, and the District of Columbia have declared a state of emergency.
National Guard in its response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
The hurricane that came through last night.
Flood events that came in.
Disaster response during floods, hurricanes, and wildfires.
When disaster strikes, we don't have to mobilize from some base. We pack a lunch, we go to work because we are already there in the communities. We live there. We can respond faster.
And they've been an unbelievable asset, all these other hands processing ballots.
We're so blessed to have this many soldiers come out and help us feed needy families during this difficult time.
Saying thank you to the National Guard to honor all the hardworking men and women day in and day out.
So it's invaluable what your soldiers are doing with the food services and with medical and things of that nature. They're literally saving people's lives every day.
You can see on people's faces the relief that comes when they know they have food to eat for the rest of the day, maybe the rest of the week.
So we're trying to make sure they feel safe coming out here and expressing their opinions and affecting the kind of change they want to see.
Fire knows no boundaries, and so we train together, we fight fire together.
It's nice to be here and be doing my job.
Just knowing that you're helping out, just knowing you're giving back to the community is pretty good.
Being a part of this mission is honestly very fulfilling. It's what I signed up for. It's what most of the soldiers with me signed up for.
To help out in any way possible and giving 110% to any community that we serve.
And remember this, always ready, always there.
Big thank you to the Army National Guard and the NJCAA and the NJCAAE for having this first of many events. We've got some people on the panel tonight that are excited to chat with you already, but a few housekeeping tips real quick before we get rolling is if you have questions about scholarships, about recruitment, and maybe you don't hear it or you want to hear it and you want to tell the panelists, please use the Q&A button. It's probably right down in here somewhere, or if you're on your phone or your tablet, you might have to use the little 3 buttons to go into the menu and find the Q&A, type that in. And we're going to try and answer those questions throughout the evening. We, as well as have the panelists answer some of those questions towards the end of their presentations and a follow-up at the end of the night. Now, I really want you to stick around. We have a lot of people in the chat right now, so you definitely need to stick around because there are some amazing opportunities for you here beyond just the scholarships that you can earn maybe this year, next year, or when you graduate high school. We've got some prizes to give away. Now, I want you to stick around the entire presentation tonight because we're going to be giving you information about how to get involved in getting some really cool stuff. So HyperX is actually given some gear to the NJCAA in this event. We're going to share those with you now. So make sure you stick around because we've got some cool stuff to give away. We've got a Pulse Fire Raid mouse that they're going to give away, a Cloud Alpha S gaming headset, as well as a Alloy Origins keyboard. Now, those are pretty sweet. I've got a HyperX. I like HyperX. I think you guys will too. If you stick around throughout the evening, we're going to be giving away some information. So don't leave. Get your popcorn, snuggle up. We're going to be having some really, really good information tonight. And we've got some amazing panelists. On our panelist agenda tonight, we've got some great people like Kris Weissman, Jeff White, and Master Sergeant Stevenson from the Army National Guard on a few different panels, as well as me. I'm going to be speaking tonight about college recruitment for esports. We're going to be talking about scholarships and much, much more. A little bit about the NJCAAE. Back in September 2019, the NJCAA announced the creation of NJCAA Esports, the national governing body of two-year college esports. Spearheading the creation and growth of the new association, Jeff White oversees all aspects of the operations as the executive director for NJCAA Esports. Now, Jeff is part of the NJCAA National Office staff as the Vice President for Legal Diversity, IT, and Resources. As the association's in-house legal counsel, Jeff works with NJCAA National Office staff and Board of Regent members to review contracts, assist regions with legal needs, create and revise internal processes, manage association policies and procedures, analyze and evaluate legal impact of legislation on NJCAA and its members, as well as monitor Title IX compliance. Jeff, you do a lot, obviously. Prior to joining the NJCAA National Office in February of 2019, Jeff spent 3 years as Vice President of Student Experience and Human Resources, as well as the Director of Athletics at Hocking College, at an NJCAA member, as you know, in Region 12. Jeff also served as the Director of Human Resources at the Supreme Court of Ohio. Jeff, we'll bring you in. I'm going to come back in about 4 to 5 minutes. The floor is yours. Have a great time, sir. Thank you.
Bubba, I appreciate it, buddy. You know, you didn't even get a chance to go into the stuff I do outside of the NJCAA and the NJCAAE. So, but in the interest of time, I'll jump right in. As you'd mentioned, we were founded in 2019. And at that time, our focus was on removing all barriers to entry for students that want to go to college and for institutions that want to start esports programs. We really believed we could create additional pathways for students, and just as importantly, an engagement recruiting strategy for member schools. As you mentioned, I was a VP at a member school, and when I was there, I helped to lay the foundation for an esports program that ultimately I passed off when I left, but I saw firsthand the potential impact there. I'm happy to say that Hocking College is an active member of the esports community here at the NJCAAE. And now, through the partnership with Generation Esports and the Army National Guard, we're able to connect students and colleges, I believe, unlike any other organization. So tonight, we're going to spend a little time discussing how colleges recruit students for esports and the availability of institutional aid to go to school and play esports. What's interesting is, you know, most students and most parents don't realize that this money's out there, that these funds are available. But we learned very quickly that that's the case. And so that's a big part of the reason why we created this program. And so, you know, I know you spent just a few moments there talking about who we are, but I'd like to spend some time delving in just a little more. We are the only exclusively 2-year college association. So from a competitive standpoint, what this means is that our member institutions are competing solely against other 2-year colleges. So in other words, it's a more equal playing field. And that's an important part or piece of the student experience. In just our 4th competitive semester, which is 2 years, we already have over 80 colleges from every part of the United States. And when I say every part, I mean Washington State, Florida, Arizona, New York. I mean, literally, and everywhere in the Midwest. We're all over the place. We already have over 1,500 students participating and more than 10 game titles. Of the many benefits of partnering with Generation Esports, we have access to basically every game title that a student has any interest in playing. And now I really want to get into the part or the message that I want for any parents that are on here. This is the piece that I really want to stress to you. We offer competitive collegiate competition for national championships, just like traditional sports. So to be clear, this isn't just students sitting at home or wherever they live playing video games. Uh, Students in our league, at our association, at our member schools, they receive coaching, they receive academic support, jerseys, and they're held to academic standards for participation. And I think what's potentially most important, they learn what it means to be a part of a team. I can't tell you how many stories we've heard about students sharing what it meant to them to receive a jersey for the first time, and to learn, what it means to represent the name on the front of the jersey, just as much, if not more, than what you're representing on the back. But as I mentioned previously, students have to qualify academically. If you don't make the grades, then you don't play. We require a minimum of a 2.0 grade point average and full-time enrollment each semester and each preceding semester, if you're a returning student, to participate. So this is about keeping students engaged in college life, in their education, in their experience. And as we know, an engaged student is a student that stays in school and a student that completes. We support a bring your own device, play from anywhere model. So even if you don't live on campus, or if your school doesn't have dedicated space, students can still participate. And so obviously, over the past year, with COVID having the impact that it's had on all of us, this has been a huge benefit because, student engagement, and for all of you high school students that are out there, staying engaged in what's going on campus for many of you isn't always of primary importance. So finding other opportunities to keep you engaged is something that we work very hard to do. And then the last thing I talk about is it's not just about competition. As I mentioned previously, you have to qualify academically. If you don't make the grades, you don't play. But we're also the only STEM.org accredited collegiate esports association. So our goal isn't just to connect students with the esports team and to create those recruiting connections from an athletics or esports perspective, but it's also to create a strong academic connection. Many high schools have adopted STEM programming, and our ability to connect high schools with colleges with similar academic paths and programs is something that we take very seriously. We're also helping students, though, beyond gaming. It's not just about playing the game. There's also the production of esports streams, shoutcasting the streams, and planning and organizing the events. Just like with traditional sports, where there's a variety of careers that have been built around around sports and playing the games, we're really taking a holistic approach, so we can help every student get their degree. For most of us, higher education is the key to transforming the trajectory of our future, and we're committed to making that happen. So I know that's a lot of information, but I didn't have a lot of time. So happy to answer any questions that may have popped up if I have time for that, Bubba.
Well, we're going to move on because you've given such great information. So I think what you said was great, and we appreciate you, Jeff, and what you've been doing. And we'll have some questions at the end that we all can answer. But I appreciate you, sir. It was great.
Thank you, Bubba.
All right. Well, thanks, Jeff White, for being on, the executive director of NJCAAE. We're going to have some questions down the road we'll be answering. But, I want a quick reminder, hey, stick around for some HyperX information because you don't want to miss out on your chance to win. Right now, we're going to introduce our next guest on the panel. It's going to be Master Sergeant Stevenson with the Army National Guard. He is a North Dakota native. He has served for 21 years in the Army National Guard, also serves as the Army National Guard Esports Program Manager. He's also been an avid gamer for over 30 years, who maybe later tonight we can talk a little bit about some recent dubs in Warzone. Master Sergeant Stevenson? How are you, sir?
Good. Yourself?
I'm great. Thanks for being here. I'm going to step away, let you talk your spiel, and I'll come back in about 4 to 5 minutes, sir.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again. It's a pleasure to be here, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the invitation, and I get a chance to speak with you all. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering why the Army National Guard is in esports, right? So, looking back at that video that we played at the beginning, 2020 and 2021 have been a busy year, not only for our organization, but for everybody. And, looking at how COVID has affected everybody's lives and our organization specifically, I look back when I first started playing video games and seeing, my parents saying, hey, you need to go outside because there'll never be a career path in playing video games. And then you look at 2020 and 2021, it really has transformed esports and video games. So, and now you can literally have your own career in video games, which is huge. So, we look at today in this Generation Z, vast majority of them play video games, and that's replicated with our current service members. Statistically looking, we got about 60% of service members that play video games. So we really want to connect, our organization with Gen Zers, that we share the same passion of gaming. And just because you serve in the military doesn't mean you can't do the things you enjoy, which obviously video games. And we have that path, and us being a reserve component of the Army, we're able to have a U.S. Army esports team, which we share with those guys. We have Army Reserve, and Army National Guard members that are part of those teams. So even when you serve in the military, there's an opportunity to play video games full time. It's a crazy time for this generation with unemployment going up, skyrocketing student debt, and then obviously the pandemic. We really wanted to showcase that our service being part-time, you can still go to school full-time, whether 2-year or 4-year university, and really you can pursue multiple paths at once. And this allows Guard members to set themselves up for future success. We think partnering with the NJCAA is just a natural fit, as both of us are aiming to further resources and opportunities for students and also to compete at esports at a competitive and national level to replicate what Jeff said. I mean, this is a great organization for people to get into esports, and partnered with HSCL, the High School Esports League, this year. And we were able to fund a number of approximately 25 high schools across the United States and build esports labs in those high schools. And based off the success of that, we're hoping that we'll have the opportunity in the future to do esports labs for both high schools and colleges for years to come. So that's pretty exciting stuff that we're doing. But other than that, Bubba, it pretty much gives us an overview.
That's great. That's great, Master Sergeant. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, it's been fun keeping up on TikTok with the every day they're at a different school with what you guys are doing through that partnership, and watching them build esports labs. So it's really appreciative, and working with NJCAA has been fun to watch as well. So yeah, hey, we're gonna have you back here in a little bit, and we're gonna ask you some fun questions and maybe talk about Warzone and some streamers. So we'll see you soon. Okay. Thank you,
Sounds
sir.
good.
All right. Well, next up, we're going to have a little bit longer segment, and we're going to actually get to hear from an actual college esports head coach. Will help answer many of the questions you probably have about recruitment. We've got some great questions in the Q&A. There are so many people here right now, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time at evening to come in and watch. But we're going to introduce someone right now. We're going to introduce Kris Weissman. He is the Director of Student Life and at the University of South Carolina Sumter. He also serves as the Director and Head Coach of Esports. Kris began his career at USC Sumter in spring '09. He was volunteer assistant coach for women's and men's soccer. All right, that's awesome. Back in November of 2009, he was the campus recreation coordinator. That's great. Years later, in 2011 and 12, Kris became the Director of Student Life, and he quickly began implementing new programs, activities, and events for students. In 2015, Kris founded the USC Sumter Esports program. The program was one of the first programs, varsity esports programs in the United States, and the first varsity program for college in South Carolina. His program focuses on the opportunity for students' growth and development, and his main focus has been helping the students graduate. He's a lifelong gamer, sports enthusiast, and coach. Kris enjoys the thrill of esports competition. The floor is yours, sir. I will be back in about 15 to 20 minutes, and you guys have some fun.
Awesome. Thank you, Bubba. I appreciate that. I'm going to share my screen with you here. Let's see. All right, so everyone, I'm glad to be here. Hope everyone's doing okay today. I look forward to talking to you about esports. As Bubba stated, my name is Kris Weissman. I'm the director and head coach of esports at USC Sumter here in South Carolina. We've been doing this for about this summer will be our 7th year, going into our 7th year mark. So we've been having a lot of fun and learned a lot along the way. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of those opportunities here that we, developed at our campus and that the NJCAAE really helped bring out in college esports. So what better time than now, as you might have already gathered from Jeff and Master Sergeant Stevens, that, esports is booming. So the time really to get involved is now. It's on so many levels, just exploding out there for students, young people, all of the above, even just enthusiasts of all ages to take a look and kind of learn about esports and what it's all about. Traditionally, it was kind of just on the pro scene, might have been bigger in other countries and things like that, and maybe somewhat on the amateur scene. But in the past handful of years, it's really picked up, on the college level and on the high school level. And even nowadays, you're starting to see even younger youth in recreational opportunities or small and large scale events that are just becoming more popular that may have always been there, but are definitely more accessible now, and people know about them. So I'm going to kind of highlight more on the high school level going into college here. But definitely, it's really important to know that this wave's coming. If I could have been in the shoes of young people today, when I was graduating high school or still in high school going into college, I'm jealous and envious of the fact that you all have esports. You know, when I first played competitively, we were on dial-up internet. So dating myself a little bit, but I still don't consider myself to be an old guy here. But we still had dial-up internet, which some of you watching this might not even know what that is. But it's much slower than what you have now for sure. And I kind of debuted my competitive side on StarCraft on the PC back then. So it's really come a long way. And as you can see with the NJCAA, they've partnered with the High School Esports League, which was already mentioned here. Um, and they have over 3,100 high schools that compete. If you just think about the average of students that are in a high school, you can think that that's tons of students out there, thousands possibly, that are competing in esports already, and that number's growing every day. I'm 100% positive of that. Schools are adding to that league, as well as with our NJCAA league. 2-year schools here, um, they serve over 82 schools and institutions, servicing probably about 1,500 plus students. And I know for a fact that Jeff White probably gets calls every day about a new school that's interested in participating and things like that. So the opportunities are really there. And, more and more, uh, areas are getting involved. The Midwest kind of started a big boom with esports in both high school and college, and it's started to spread all across the country, like Jeff White mentioned. There's schools everywhere, from Florida to Washington State, all the way up East Coast, hotbed in Midwest, and then West Coast as well. So with that being said, about the fact that the time is now, so you really got to look at what doors are open for students now, or young people, or something to strive to. Even if you're not, say, a high school senior or a junior, there's things out there that you can start to plan for your future. There's kids that are in middle school or younger that they decide they want to be a basketball star or something, or football, and they put in the work very early to get to that point. And now it's even more of a reality that young people can do that in esports as well. So the doors opened in that aspect as far as what's provided and what's there. So I look at that and just opportunities, right? So that opportunity's there just for the dream of the young person, that they can use esports to launch that and go into a career, whether it be on the competitive level, being a person that plays, or whether it be somebody that gets involved in some type of part of the industry, from broadcasting to something like Jeff White does with the NJCAAE, or coaching. There's so many different things out there that students can get involved with. So that opportunity is developed there from, a personal perspective on how you want to choose that pursuit. But not only that, a lot of students are getting the opportunity now to just go to college. I've had many students in our program that possibly would have never thought college was for them, or that they wanted to even pursue college, without the fact that they realized esports was a thing. And once they found that out, it really actually changed their mind to college. They maybe didn't know what they wanted to do at the time, but it got them in the door to apply and then come get involved in campus, um, and take classes, take their beginning classes, and then ultimately they learned what they wanted to do, and it pursued them into a degree path, and they graduated from there. On our level, it's a 2-year level, so it's perfect for students that come in and maybe don't know what they want to do, or they just want to start off with the beginning courses and such, that all general education does, and get that background there. So just those opportunities of opening the door, whether it be the dream of making it big or making a career out of it, or just the fact that it gives you that drive to maybe even want to go to school. And we've definitely had kids that only came to our school because esports was a thing. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have gone to school, or maybe not our school in general. Um, so that interest level brings them in. They find that connection of some way, whether it be just the connection with the program because they love video games, and they find that connection and go for it, or they find that pursue it into a career of whatever it may be, not even esports, just it changes their perspective to pursue a degree that maybe they weren't thinking of before. But the biggest things with 2-year schools, as well as the NJCAA is accessibility and value here. So the accessibility is so much easier for, I believe, students to get involved with 2-year campuses than it is your traditional 4 years, because of the fact that it's right there at their fingertips. It maybe doesn't take as much to get into some of those schools, or there's not as much of a waiting list. Not to say it's not as prestigious, um, but it's just usually a more closer opportunity, maybe, in some cases. There's a lot of reasons why people potentially choose, say, your community college or your 2-year college, your technical college, and they have this opportunity right there for them to pursue that. And then taking that accessibility and kind of turning it into value, um, the value that you get not only out of being a part of esports and having an awesome opportunity for the students, you also tend to save a good bit of money coming to a 2-year institution. And as Master Sergeant mentioned, uh, you know, the debt for students is skyrocketing. We have a major issue with that for our young people nowadays, and the 2-year school definitely helps out with that opportunity to no matter what state you're in or where you're in the country, most common places that are 2-year schools are going to be much more affordable than a state 4-year school or private institution. So that value there just stands alone for the amount of money that you might spend. But not to mention that these schools are often overlooked is the fact that they provide very high quality education for these individuals to pursue too. And that's number one, right? So course, a student might come to esports at a college and that's their main thing and that's what really got them into college. But overall, we're here to give them a degree. We're here to get them graduated. We're here to better them as an individual and move them on into the future. And nowadays, more and more, having that education is super important. So the impact here on the student athlete, beyond some of those things that you can draw, simple conclusions to, is just the engagement, the socialization, the teamwork that they build up, the communication skills, and all those type of things are things that you find in traditional sports. But it also helps push them to a launching point in the future. It shows them the opportunities that are there. Um, and there's plenty of places that when they see somebody's involved in a sport, um, esports or traditional sports, when they see that on a resume or something like that, they know that that took a commitment from that individual to be involved in that. And that really kind of stands out as somebody that might be a leader going into the workforce or something like that. So that's definitely things that you want to keep in mind when you think about the impact on there and what colleges can bring out with esports. So thinking again, just kind of about opening the door, and this is going to lead me into a couple of my other slides here, is the program growth. I talked about how over the past handful of years, everything's been growing, and so many more schools are getting involved, high schools, colleges, etc. And this just kind of shows how many programs, including 4-year to 2-year, have grown over the past handful of years, and that's really amazing. Not to mention that we're talking as many of schools have started out, over those years, we're talking about millions of dollars in scholarship, and I repeat that, millions. That's a lot of money for people to have out there at their fingertips if they potentially, excuse me, want to pursue it. Um, so those scholarship dollars are really amazing to think about. You get scholarships for your other traditional sports and things like that, and esports has followed that same direction. Just like Jeff White mentioned, there's certain stipulations that it takes to be in a program, and that is, the same tradition or structure that a regular sports has. Maintaining your GPA, going to games, practices, study halls, full-time hours in classes, and scholarships come right behind that. So how do you get connected? How can I get connected as a member of the audience looking at this, a high school student, maybe a parent, checking this out for their child? So there's a couple different ways, and there's not necessarily a surefire fire best way. Honestly, I would take advantage of every opportunity that's available to you that you can find as far as trying to get involved with esports, whether it's in your high school, your local community, or even in college. Obviously, here we want to connect you and show you that pathway from high school or just you in general, and your passion can lead you to college and follow you into a 2-year school here at the NJCAA. So there's a couple different ways to look at that. So number one, you got to play, right? You got to play a lot. You got to put in the effort, and try to be the best that you can be. But don't get too tied up and you have to be the perfect and most best player ever. We'll get into that in a minute, but you definitely have to play. You got to showcase yourself, put your brand out there, um, and do things the right way. So look out for recruiting events. Try to find those things and get involved. Colleges will host them, different things like that. There might be community events where a college might just come by and see what the local players are doing. Every college just about has a recruitment form. You can go to their site, learn about their program, fill out their recruitment form. That's a good way for them to get in direct contact with you. There's recruiting organizations that potentially help you out, and even associations and organizations like the NJCAA or the NJCAAE in general. Is they're going to help you connect to colleges and things like that. I guarantee you, if you reached out to Jeff White or anybody in his office, they would tell you all about plenty of colleges and opportunities that are out there for you. Obviously, tryouts, even if you're going to go to a college and maybe they don't have esports, or maybe they start it, or maybe you didn't know and you get there and you're not on the team, go try out. Or beforehand, go find the tryouts and get involved with those while you're still in while you're still in high school before you get to college. And don't be afraid to do the cold message. Okay. You might not hear anything back, but if you have some places you're very interested in, there's nothing wrong with finding the coach's information, filling out that coach's recruitment form, and sending them a message, an email, finding them on Discord and telling them you're interested in their program and you want to learn more. That the more you can learn and the more you can get involved, and the more you can put yourself out there, the better chance you have to connect, and find something that's best for you. So with that being said, what are coaches looking for? Me, number one, I put character above all. And I think you'll find that the majority of coaches in our league and probably across esports in general are going to look for quality people, good character. They're going to look, me for sure, I look for commitment, dedication, respect, determination. Without those things, you can't be a good player. You might be pretty good, but when you're in a team setting or you're representing a program, if you don't have those other traits, then you're not gonna last very long. Um, you can't be a good student without committing and dedicating yourself to that. So you can't have one without the other. Basically, is the good point to take from there. Um, I'll take somebody with the drive and the commitment and that determination and dedication to their team, to their teammates, to their coaches, to the school over a highly ranked player that doesn't necessarily have some of those traits any day of the week. And if you see right there, I put student before rank. So number one, and like I said at the bottom here, being a student athlete comes first, and that student is before athlete. So without being a good student, you don't get the athlete part anyways. If you're failing and things like that, you're not going to be eligible to compete. So you have to be a good student. You have to push forward. It doesn't mean you have to be the best student. You can learn to become a good student. You can get some of those support services that are available at colleges to be better. So don't be discouraged by the fact that you might not be the best student. There's still opportunities and you can still grow as an individual. And then, of course, rank is there. Rank isn't everything, but that you at least have some kind of commitment. It shows some of your familiarity, and things like that. But an individual can grow with their rank for sure a lot easier than they can grow in trying to change their character as an individual, as far as traits and things like that grow. I've had students that were very low rank or very new to the program or new to gaming in general on a competitive scene, and they became some of the best and highest ranked players we ever had. So with that being said, I don't want to take up too much more time, but I'm glad to answer questions or Bubba,
Yeah.
you can tell
Yeah.
me when questions might roll in, and
Yeah.
I'll be glad to answer
No,
from there.
you another great presentation. I mean, we had a lot of questions already answered through the chat, and yeah, feel free to stop sharing your screen, and we'll jump into a little bit of this. The great information, Kris. I know a lot of the students will be asking how and what does it look like? How do you get there? I think you answered a lot of those questions. We're going to be covering in the next session. Here in the next few sessions, we'll be covering some more information. You can go ahead and stop sharing if you want. I might just do it for you if you need. You can keep your video on though.
Trying to figure that one out.
It's okay. We'll figure it out. So yeah, I mean, I guess big questions. Yeah, big question for you is I think we'll cover it in the scholarship section, but feel free to throw any questions while we're in there later, and we'll come back to some questions at the end. You did great. I appreciate you. Thanks, Kris.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So we're going to jump into, we're going to bring back Master Sergeant Stevenson if you want to come back in. Also, just quick reminder while we're here, boom, make sure you stick around. HyperX information is coming soon. Don't forget to listen in for what's going to happen. Now, Master Sergeant Stevenson, I was watching Facebook Gaming the other day, and there were some fellas in there, one named Juice, Corporal Flores, one named Cam, Sergeant Ford, and then Ram Tough, Master Sergeant Stevenson. I really enjoy watching Stone Mountain 64. He was probably one of the first people I started watching in online streaming back on Facebook. This was 4 years ago. And I love his random YouTube videos of him sounding like he's actually in the thick of it, saying, Rover 6, we got to move in. Let's go. I got one down, Tango to the left, 8 o'clock. You know, I love that stuff. It's great. But I noticed your second place victory you had there by prison and the ship. It was an 18 kill game, but did you feel like you were getting carried? You only had one kill.
Hey, I'm not any of those high kill Warzone players by all means. And I want you to know I actually took a several month break and just came back about 2-3 days ago, actually.
I've used that excuse too.
Right? I'm definitely not an FPS guy.
Oh, yeah?
I used to play SOCOM 2 back in the day, and that was my jam. But I'm
yeah.
more of an MMO type guy. And to answer your question that Harrison message earlier, in esports, I think some of my favorite personal esports is actually completed 2 world firsts. I don't know if you're familiar with the game Final Fantasy 11, but I raided with a group called Apathy, and we had 2 world firsts. It was Absolute Virtue, AV, and Pandemonium Warden. So to me, on the personal level, that's probably my best moments in esports. And then I've played WoW for 15 years and rated in the top 20 US. So
same
yeah.
here. If we want to talk about video game addiction, guys, talk about World of Warcraft.
True story.
True story. Well, Master Sergeant, go ahead. Do you have one more thing?
No, and then you know, on the Army National Guard, to what you're saying, you know, some of the greatest moments there in the esports is playing with Stone Mountain. You know, I mean, the guy's just a great, genuine human being, fun to watch.
Yeah.
He's a character. And you know what? I mean, me being not a great Warzone player, and you know, Cam and Juice are actually in the here as panelists or participants. You know, we're not the greatest FPS players. We're decent, but if you look at that, the teamwork, the communications, we're still able to get a win out of it in a second place, even though I had one kill. So,
well, you got a first place. You got a first place victory later in the cemetery as you push that most wanted. Good play. I play a lot of Call of Duty. I play way too much Call of Duty. I'm actually on a 19-day break from Call of Duty right now on all video games. But yeah, we need it sometimes. Sometimes it's just the game just does it to you. You got to take a walk. So knowing how esport coaches are recruiting the college space, you heard from Kris, are there certain majors and areas of focus that the Army National Guard is looking for when it comes to recruitment?
So I think that's kind of the beauty of our organization, right? It doesn't matter what your academic major is or what your degree is in. It really doesn't matter, right? Like you can still serve with that degree. You know, in one part of being in the Army National Guard is become a commissioned officer, which requires a bachelor's degree. So it's not necessarily that we need a certain academic major. However, there's always those specialized fields like medical and aviation. And obviously, having over 130 different job skills, vocational is always out there. And as you know, the civilian workforce is hurting for vocational trade skills, which we offer as well, training for. So.
Well, I love this. I mean, students, if you're listening right now and you don't typically want your parents watching over your shoulder on things you do on your phone and your laptop or your iPad, go ahead and let them watch over your shoulder right now, because this is a good time to let your guard down and let them listen in about all the beneficial things you can do with your college and career life, especially learning from amazing people like Master Sergeant Stevenson. And I got one last question for you. Are there any certain traits that you look to for recruits?
I'd like to think our organization looks for certain traits like any other business, or even, going back to what Kris said, a lot of those traits are key traits that you would want in any type of employee or student or anybody that works with you. Key things that even in esports, having some leadership skills, good communication, being able to be a team player, and honestly being adaptive, right? Adaptability.
Well, Master Sergeant Stevenson, hopefully we can get in a game of Call of Duty here soon, and you can carry me, and or maybe we'll play some WoW. I mean, Burning Crusade's coming out with Classic again. I know we're all going to get back into it. Well, thank you, sir. Yeah, yes, 2004 for me, December. Too long. So we'll come back to you here in a little bit, and we'll ask some more follow-up questions at the end. Sound good, sir?
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, sir. Well, hey, students, if you are here, you're about to get a little bit more information. I know we got some great questions in the Q&A, some really good stuff that we're actually going to cover here in the next 10 minutes. And I wanted to really remind you to make sure you stick around, because there's some HyperX gear going to be given away, and we want to make sure you know about how getting yourself into that raffle or that registration, or we'll find out. I guess you're gonna have to wait and listen in. So we're going to move right into our next section, which is going to be me. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about scholarships, tuition discounts. I'm going to answer a few questions. We've got about 9 minutes here before we wrap up. And I wanted to pull up just a little about us. Like I said, I'm Bubba Gaddard, Executive Director of the Varsity Esports Foundation. This is our website, varsityesportsfoundation.org. We partner with groups such as NJCAAE, with High School Esports League, with NASIF. We enjoy those leagues being out there to help the pipeline. But we're also a nonprofit charity that really supports the scholarship and grant space. So please check us out. We have a lot of information for you. You can learn a lot about esports. We spend so much time basically talking about it and educating people and providing some literacy that we want to really just get as much information as we can. So parents, if you're listening in, feel free to go to any of the websites you've seen tonight. NJCAAE has information that we'll share. I'll share a link here in a minute, and our website as well. We spent so much time talking about esports that we actually created some videos. Feel free to go to esportseducation.network, and we have a lot of great videos. What is esports? Okay, this is a great video course for you to take if you want to understand what esports is. I think many people who are in the chat tonight probably know what esports is, but you may not know how to write it correctly with a capital S. Maybe that's you. Learn how to write it correctly here with some more videos. Why it matters in schools, how to start an esports club in school, how does scholarships work, and that's what a little bit we're going to talk about tonight. I wanted to give you a couple pages to look at. This is a partner with ours as well as the NJCAAE under Uni Esports. It is looking for group. You can actually go to this lfggroup.gg, and you can go and check out and do a search for schools. This one's really cool. You can go over here to search for school and hit 2-year universities. Okay, pick your state and you can search. There's a ton of schools you can go and learn about who's playing. But also, look at there, NJCAAE. Also, you can go to the membership index on njcaa.org under esports. They have this really great map of schools where you can find out where these did, and you can find out what the name of those schools are. And, hey, where do you live? Where do you live? There's probably a pin dot somewhere near you or in your state. And I think there are 80, almost 100 schools. I think it's 80 some odd schools. So it's continuing to grow. I'm going to give you some numbers here in a minute, but you can also go to generationesports.com/NJCAAE. And I think this is a really great tool down at the very, very bottom of this page, generationesports.com/NJCAAE. They got the map, but hey, I believe you have the coaches there. So I think if you want to reach out and try to get recruited, there's an opportunity. And I'll talk a little bit about that as well, about the opportunities in college esports and why it matters and how we're supposed to get there. And I'm going to answer some of these questions that have been asked in the chat. And first of all, let's just look at it. If you got your parents listening in, I want them to hear these things. I want them to hear this important information, because they're probably telling you, stay in the basement, drink your soda, eat your chips, and that's bad. And I want you to get outside. Well, there's a lot of research against that, because we found that esports actually does some really great things, especially in a safe environment like a school or a university. Sense of belonging. Okay. 97% of teens play video games. It helps with GPA. There's actually $20 million in scholarships is what the new number is. But I'll be honest with you. Let me just tell you, about 5 million of those dollars go unused every year because there's not enough students in the pipeline. Okay. Did you hear that? There's about $5 million of scholarships out there that go unused, these tuition discounts that are available that go unused at a lot of these universities, because they either can't find students to recruit, or they're not out there trying to get recruited, or there's just not enough students playing. So I want to make sure you know there is an opportunity for you. If you're in the chat right now and you're watching, there's an opportunity for you. Is esports a sport? We had some questions about what careers look like. And I'm going to cover a little bit of that about that, because if you were to take this image right here, that's under NASIF's career pathways, and you were to look at it, we could take this section right here and replace this with NFL, NBA, news stations. And you're going to have business development, marketing, web developers, IT support, shoutcasters, which is the same as commentators for traditional sports, the journalist. There's all these sorts of jobs in the esports ecosystem that we want to make sure you know. There's production, there is stuff for audio, video. I'll be honest, there's not enough colleges doing this, but I do know at Ottawa University in Kansas, they started about 2-3 years ago, and they actually give a scholarship to the students who are the social media manager of the club, and a scholarship to the student who is the audio video director. So if you're thinking there's not an opportunity to be a part of the esports team because maybe you don't play the games you play the best and to get recruited, there's opportunities in college at some universities to get recruited for different things. So I want to kind of give these different verticals, and I only have a few minutes here, and I know there's some great questions rolling, and we're going to get to those, and I think I've covered a few, but I want to let you know that there are different verticals in the esports space that don't always have to be being a player. You sometimes can get recruited in college or even pro based on your social media influence. You may get recruited and not be a gold tier, diamond, something 9, whatever the numbers are in the game. You may not be that, but you may have a personality. You may have a social media influence. You may have a Twitch following, which is a common thing for people to look for, because as students, I know we all look to YouTube to be the next YouTube or the TikTok star. But you may have that following. And I will just say that there's opportunities for you. There's opportunities to make a career and get a college degree out of not just being the player. So I want you to think about those things. I want you to connect with people on social media. I want you to come to seminars like this. I want you to network. I want you to pull up the NJCAAE information that's out there and talk to these coaches, talk to other players. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to help you do. If you're a coach or a champion at your university, you're at your two-year college institution, and you don't know what your next steps are, well, that's what tonight's for. NJCAAE, Jeff White, I'm pretty sure he talks to a couple dozen schools a week on helping them understand what their next steps are. And he's probably going hoarse from it and his throat is dry, but he loves doing it just like we all do. So to wrap up this session on scholarships and what's happening, it's a big industry. Parents, it's out there. It's a $24 billion industry. Half of the market for the $160 billion industry is mobile. So if you play on mobile, you might have an opportunity. I will say that console and mobile are not always the top pro or college platforms that colleges are recruiting for or pros recruiting for, because the high-powered PC is the way to go. So if you need to switch over to keyboard and mouse on your Xbox or PlayStation, that might be a good opportunity. So as I wrap up here, violence in video games is definitely something that we want to make sure that people know that there's been no link found, screen time link, no relationship to that between aggressive behavior in teenagers. It helps with depression. Helps with understanding, that's gray matter volume, well-being, cognitive benefits, improves memory. We got lots of research. We want you guys to know these things because we want to help this industry grow, and we want to make sure you're a part of it. So as I finish up here, I'm going to bring back in some folks. Actually, I'm going to bring in Jeff White. Jeff, if you want to jump in. Look at that. Look at that. Cued right on. I think I barely said the J in your name and you're here.
Oh, I'm ready.
You're ready. So Jeff, tell us real quickly, what's it take to get a program at their school?
Well, that's a great question, Bubba. And, as I'd mentioned at the outset, we really built this with an eye towards removing all barriers to entry. So in other words, if your institution only has enough resources or interest to have 4 students, we can do that. We have that. If your institution has enough resources and interest to have 70 plus students, we can do that. We have that. It really comes in all shapes and sizes. What I would say is, just as it's interesting, you highlighted all of the unclaimed scholarship and institutional aid dollars. The same thing in many ways happens on college campuses, right? Because there's all of this interest, but colleges don't know. So much of this, really, the onus is on the students in a lot of ways to make it known that they have this interest. And so we have support. Students can reach out to our association. We are partners with different organizations that specialize in facilitating student surveys and analyzing that information and assisting students in sharing that information with their school.
That's great, Jeff. Why don't you stick around, Master Sergeant? Would you jump back in for us? We got a great question for you on Army National Guard scholarship tuition assistance. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, having 50 states and 4 territories, most states offer up to 100% state tuition assistance for service in the Army National Guard. To include, they also have federal tuition assistance, which is about $4,000 annually that you can be eligible for. Usually what states do is use that federal tuition assistance first, and then use their state tuition assistance to fund any other dollars beyond that $4,000. And then on top of it, you have your GI Bill. Your reserve component GI Bill. If you're not familiar with it, you can Google Montgomery GI Bill, and I'll give you the specifics on what the GI Bill does for you. But basically, it's a tax-free allotment you get every month as a student.
That's great. So you're saying there's opportunities to maybe get your college paid for if you do something in the military?
So prime example here, I have an associate's degree, and that's why I love 2-year colleges, because I got my associate's degree at a 2-year institution in my hometown, Lake Region State College. And then I went on to get my bachelor's, and I have 0 student debt, and I haven't had to take out a student loan. So if that gives you any idea, the benefits of service in the Army National Guard. So
I think a lot of us, who are 20 to 50, look back and say, why did I take that student loan? And, it's hurting. So don't do what we did, kids, and learn from us old folks who shouldn't have taken those opportunities. Sign up for something like, Army National Guard, and, get an esports scholarship by, being a good student athlete. Do grades matter when it comes to esports recruitment?
I mean, certainly. I mean, they're student athletes, right? And if Kris is still with us, I'd certainly look for Kris to jump in on this as well. But the one thing I would say generally is, you got to have a 2.0 and a full-time enrollment to maintain eligibility. So you got to hit the books.
Yeah, and I see a lot of leagues out there, and a lot of programs with GPA requirements. So, and like I said, students, you need good grades. You need to have good social media etiquette. Um, you need to make sure that's important things for you to follow, and that's in anything, right? I really think if your parents have been not watching tonight, Jeff, is this going to be a recording potentially that we can send out to the students so their parents could watch?
Absolutely. But Bob, I just thought of something that I
Mhm.
really have to throw out there.
Please.
For a first semester student, your high school grades don't matter. They don't matter at all. For to be a first semester participant, you need to only be enrolled full time at a member college and be a student in good standing. And of course, the institution makes that determination. But so yes, grades matter. I don't mean to suggest that they don't, but it doesn't matter how you did in high school. In fact, you don't even have to be a high school graduate. You don't even have to have a GED. You need only be enrolled full time, and you got a shot.
That's interesting. So, education opportunities out there, no matter what situation you're in right now, there's going to be an opportunity. It sounds like.
Yeah, and Bubba, the logic behind that honestly was we recognize that some students just aren't engaged in high school, right? I mean, let's be candid, they just didn't care.
Mhm.
And we really believe that through esports and through the maturation process, that students grow and develop when they're in college. I mean, that's part of it, right? And so the opportunity to give them some skin in the game, so to speak, by creating this esports pathway and making them understand that yes, there's this awesome opportunity, and you're going to make all these friends and these lifelong experiences and memories, but you got to hit the books. And what we're seeing is that it's really making a difference.
I love that. I love that. I'm gonna try and get Chris in here. I just asked him to join in, see if it allows him. There we go.
Sure, there we go.
There we go. There we go. Any last comments to these students? If you read any of the question answers, what are some? I know I get this when I wear a suit like this, and I went to DreamHack. I had kids walk up to me and say, "Hey, bro, can you sponsor me, bro?" And I'm like, "Hey, I run a nonprofit. There's no money for me right now, so I'm definitely
Yeah.
not gonna be able to sponsor you." But
Sure.
is that kind of mentality? How is it working through that mentality of the YouTube kind of generation of I need to get big and be a TikTok famous? And what's that like? I mean, you're probably in the thick of it every day.
Well, I mean, I don't think you have to be in that, area and, have the likes on Instagram and, playing videos and streaming every day and creator content and stuff, in order to be in a program. Obviously, that's going to help, for people to see you and such. So if you do those type of things, that's wonderful. If you don't, it's not the end of the world.
Mhm.
Some people don't have the means to do some of that stuff, and that's okay. There's still other ways to be seen. Um, sometimes you'll have players come up and, you know, if I get in your program, can I, use that as a platform to stream myself and show games and stuff? Or, am I going to get a lot of recognition through your streams or things like that? And I mean, the answer to that is yes. Students will, through whatever school they go to, likely have opportunities to be on stream and be seen by, hundreds of people, thousands of people potentially, as they
Mhm.
compete,
Mhm.
over Twitch, Facebook, whatever their specific thing might come to be, or turn into a YouTube star or
Mhm.
sensation.
Right. So, Chris, last question here. This is the last question of the evening before we roll into something fun, even more fun, I should say. What is it like for students? Um, I guess my biggest question here is how can students get a hold of coach? Like, what have you found the best way? I kind of know the answer, but I want to make sure the students hear it again. What is the best way to get noticed by a college team?
Sure. I put a lot of stock in cold messages, as well as recruitment forms. That's like the very first thing that I would recommend to players to do is if you're interested, find that school that you're interested in or multiple schools. Um, do some research on their website, find their recruitment form, fill it out. That information's going straight to the people that need it. And they're going to reach, they're interested, have a spot, whatever the case may be. And nothing shows more initiative than being that person that reaches out to the coaches directly and says, I'm a recruit. Now, this is who I am. You now know. When you contact, then you can say, hey, check out my gameplay, check out my, Twitch, or watch me play or something like that. But that definitely shows the initiative that you want to be seen. And that you want to take this direction and pursue there. And one more thing, just to kind of relate back to the grades thing, I didn't get to
Oh yeah, please
chime in on that because I was trying to figure out how to get back on screen. Obviously having good grades doesn't hurt, right? So that's going to be very beneficial. Once you're in a program, there's those requirements that you have to follow in order to stay eligible in those programs. But like Jeff said, it doesn't necessarily say that people can't join if they don't have the strongest grades or the strongest academic skill set. But that's something that programs can help individuals get better at. And I've had students that we've had to even, help them with appeals to get into school and stuff like that, because they needed that, opportunity to show what they could do. And they came on to be successful, in academics as well as, esports. So don't
Great.
let that discourage you. You can always work harder in the classroom, just like you can as a player.
Right. That's right. Well, I appreciate you, Kris. We're gonna wrap up here. I know Jeff's gonna say something real quick. I wanted to say to that point. Thanks, Kris. If you feel like it's hard to DM a coach on Twitter or Instagram, and you don't know what to say, but it's easier for you to DM Nick Merckx and he never replies back to you, you can DM these coaches or find them in Discords like the NJCAAE or the High School Esports League. There are coaches out there looking for students, but I will recommend to be professional and don't use shorthand, and make sure you capitalize at the beginning of your sentence and use punctuation, because then that will show you are not serious. Make sure you use serious language and professional language when trying to communicate, rather than hit me up, bro. That's not going to work. That's not going to fly. So take the initiative and make sure you be professional. Jeff, do you have some closing thoughts before we talk about the Twitch stream?
I do, and I'll be brief. I know time is of the essence here. We're talking about how you get seen. Our association hosts a variety of different recruiting pipeline events. So keep an eye out, go to our website, check out Generation Esports, HSCL. We host a variety of recruiting pipeline events that are the sole purpose of the event is to help high school students get seen by college coaches. This series tonight this is the first of at least a 16-part series.
Wow.
A combination of these webinars and some play, some competitive events, and probably Call of Duty. So I'll probably try my hand and see how I hold up in that.
Nice.
Sounds like I've got my work cut out for me. But throughout the year, we have a variety of these events, and so just keep an eye out, keep getting your name out there, and Bubba, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. We appreciate you guys. This was a great event, one of many, it sounds like. Right now, folks, we want you to, before you go anywhere, open up another tab or open up your Safari or whatever's on your phone, or open up your Twitch app, and you need to go to twitch.tv/NJCAAE. That's NJCAAE. That is what you need to search for in your Twitch bar. That is what you need to type into your URL bar. We want you to go over, because there's going to be some pretty awesome Rocket League competition happening tonight, right, Jeff? So if you are still around, make sure you go check that out. We want you to learn and listen to what they have to say. It's all starting here very soon, actually right now. So we'll see you guys over there. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We appreciate you. Have an amazing night. See you next time.